It's occurred to me that bingo night or bridge night at the senior center will probably be D&D night when we get there. And now I'm ready to retire. Hashtag mood. Where's my time machine? Welcome everyone to the Ride a Bar. Please take a seat, wait for the servers to come and take your orders, and enjoy your evening's entertainment. Now, on to the video. On the hour every year, dramatically bursting into the gaming club. That's right, a girl wants to play D&D. How about that? That's super duper. In fact, we already have 4 girls on the team. Thank you Goatbeard for this meme. Now this one. I like it. Because it shows that nowadays, it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you enjoy the game, D&D, tabletop RPGs, or any game in general. If you enjoy the hobby, and you guys are all willing to play, just go ahead. It shouldn't matter who you are, what gender you are. D&D, tabletop RPGs, or all these kinds of games, they should be for everyone. And more people playing it means more joy. So thank you Goatbeard. Stop, you're giving him inspiration. DM, you turn the corner and see a bugbear. Newbie, that sounds awful. Veteran, a bugbear? It sounds like it's a bear with wings and pincers. No, it's just a hairy... DM writing furiously. Its pincers open wide. Roll for initiative. Shit. Alright, now this one. I can't tell you how many times I've had new players, or even older players, forget the very important rule of don't give your DM ammunition to use against you. If you don't know what a monster looks like, wait until I describe it, wait until the DM describes it, or just ask ask around the table. If you're gonna say stuff like this, sometimes it's gonna make things worse, and I really love that. Of course, I mean sure, if you want to do it, go ahead. It makes the encounter more interesting, I guess. Thank you, Goblin24. Bad feeling about this intensifies. Players having over 15-minute long discussion in the middle of a dungeon. DM calmly pulls out a stopwatch, starts it, and puts it down. Players, oh shit. As a dungeon master, I personally don't really care if my team has a long discussion about the mechanics, the traps, or about how to get past certain obstacles in a dungeon or in the campaign, or even talking out of context or out of character around the table. But if you guys are going to be speaking for 15 minutes, that will be at the point where I'm going to be telling you guys, offhandedly, maybe, 2 guards are about to turn the corner, and they're talking to each other and you can hear them. I hear some noise coming from the next room. They sound like people. We don't have people in there normally. Let's go check it out. That should be that should be the signal or cue that it's time to leave. Thank you, Column889. Really appreciate this meme. Did you know a chicken in D&D 5e only costs 2 copper pieces? The DM. You get used to it. The first time player. The rest of the party calculating the economic feasibility of a carriage drawn by 400 chickens. A chicken-drawn carriage? Alright, firstly, thank you Bomberfett343. Now, 400 chickens is a lot of chickens. I personally, look, if my party wants to talk about this, or they want to talk about, or discuss the feasibility of having 400 chickens drawing the carriage, sure, each chicken costs 2 copper pieces, but here's my question for them. What are you gonna feed the chickens with? Because 400 chickens is a lot of mouths to feed. What, you guys are gonna leave them in a stable? And just let them not feed? Or have food? Or you can throw breadcrumbs, I don't know. If you guys have any idea, please leave them in the comments below. Seducing a dragon has consequences. Paladin, Your reign of terror has ended. Reveal yourself. DM. The figure lowers her hood to reveal a dragonborn. Bard. You look familiar. Have I seduced you before? Dragonborn. Hello, father. Thank you, Tome of Summoning, for this meme. Now, honestly, in my 6 years of being a dungeon master, I've had players who do this, and they're not even bards. I've had someone, I had a party member who was playing Pathfinder, and was playing Samurai class. They were the ones, not the bard. They were the ones who went around trying to seduce everyone. They're supposed to be a samurai, for God's sake. Oh my goodness. So it's not always the bard, but it's nice that this particular dungeon master decides to make sure that there are consequences to their long-term going around and screwing everyone. I lost the words there. Thank you, Tome of Summoning. Amazing meme. Let the players have fun, even if you've already seen their concepts. Me, presenting my totally OC rogue with the original twist that his parents are dead and he grew up on the streets. The veteran DM who has seen it all but is still supportive. That's pretty nice. Thank you, Robot Face X. Now, I'm gonna say this first. I don't really care if your character is not original or not, because you're playing this, and if you're able to sell the story properly, it doesn't matter if it's like a rogue who had their parents dead and they grew up in the streets, or a paladin who was dedicated to the church at a very young age and grew up in the environment for a very long time, or even other stuff. It really doesn't matter. As long as you guys are more than willing to enjoy the story first and foremost, then that's the most important thing, not your character's backstory. I do enjoy the wacky, fun stuff that people come up with in their backstory, but even stuff like this, that you may not think is original, I'm definitely going to put it in my campaign at some point. It's the best part about being a dungeon master and seeing your players come up with all these really amazing backstories. You may not think it's good, but I think it's good. Thank you, Robot Face X, for this meme. Especially, alright, this one I'll read the meme first. When you play chaotic neutral, and the BBEG's final speech is low-key making a lot of sense, especially when the gang of murder hobos you've been traveling with are probably the greater evil anyways. Thank you, scale from 1 to Tim. I've never had a group of players before who are completely murder hobo-y, so I don't know how this feels like. I do have neutral characters, or even one lawful evil one before, but he played it really well. That the reason he sticks with the group actually sticks. That character was actually champion of Asmodeus, and he was willing to stick with the team, and he actually has some really good character growth out of it too. So it isn't always supposed to be like, just because you're evil or chaotic, that it's like murder hobo-y. It could be other things as well. Wrapped up last night. Surprisingly, no one died in the final battle. The DM, when the level 1 to 20 campaign they homebrewed actually comes to an end. I never thought I'd get this far. The bane of every DM's existence. Non-finished campaigns. But it's all good. It's all good, really. As a dungeon master, you have to come to terms with the fact that not every campaign is going to finish. Sometimes schedules come into conflict. Sometimes players are no longer interested. Sometimes life just gets in the way. Or other things. But, you know, it's the fun you guys had while you're doing the campaign that truly matters. Like, for example, my first group that I played D&D with, we were doing a Pathfinder campaign, one of the pre-made ones. I think Rise of the Rune Lords. and we never finished it. We made it until book 3 of Rise of the Rune Lords, and then afterwards, there was scheduling conflicts and all that other stuff. Eventually, some players and then all players can't make it anymore. So, really, it didn't matter because this group in the end came back together, and I actually spun it around and made it so that, in the lore of this universe, of the Pathfinder universe, a previous group of heroes attempted to face the Rune Lords, but failed. You can do stuff like that where previous campaigns turns into plot points or lore for future campaigns that you're gonna do. Thank you Tricky Fox 93 for this meme. Never underestimate the power of homebrew. Guest player. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for a long time. I've seen it all. Our screwed up dungeon master. Aroo! Christ the Tortotalus. They can taste your sins on the air. Oh no. Never, ever assume that you have seen everything that Dungeons and Dragons can throw at you. Because every dungeon master is different, and every dungeon master has their own screwed up homebrew creature waiting to appear out of nowhere. Okay, firstly, thank you Darius Kell for this meme, and secondly, I want to know which person came up with the idea for these novelty items, pitched it to a store, and that store actually decided to put it on the shelves? What are these things actually? Oh no. Thank you Darius Kell for the meme. That's a little bit disturbing, really. Yes, I approve your Halfling Ranger. Good work. Noob players running to show the DM their character sheet after 3 hours of work. Deep Take Guitar, thank you for the meme. Really? Like I said in the previous one about the OC Rogue, your characters are all great. Yeah, especially for new people, even for veterans, it doesn't matter to me whether or not your backstory is in line with the universe that I created or not. Of course, there are limits, but mostly, for the most part, especially when you worked so hard on that character sheet, yeah, of course I'm gonna accept it. So, well, of course, if you're gonna make it like Bilbo Baggins, I'm definitely gonna accept it. Thank you, Deep Take Guitar, for the meme. Really, really nice. When your DM asks you this just before combat, panic intensifies. How many healing potions do all of you have? Huh? Sorry, that was a strange thing to ask. Okay. Jack Taro, thank you for the meme. Also, it is never a good sign if your DM asks you this question. You should probably rethink or at least come up with strategies to face whatever is coming next. Because either that or we're screwing with you. Like, just want you to panic, you know? There can be a lot of reasons, none of them good. Thank you, Jack Taro, for the meme. Really appreciate it. Mimics, am I right? The DM when that one paranoid character needs to check if everything's a mimic. It is a table. I actually have a story about this, but about a mimic death room that I created for my players in one campaign. I'll leave that for the end. But yes, I am one of those DMs guilty of putting mimics in my campaign. My players have never been this paranoid though. They should. They really should. Thank you, Matt Tart, for this meme. I feel called out by this. The life of all homebrew dungeon masters. Me at 2 AM, looking at World of Warcraft boss guides, to steal some cool mechanics from my bosses. Thank you, Giorgio Villa, for the meme. And really, having played World of Warcraft before, I have to say, if you're making homebrew boss mechanics for D&D, World of Warcraft actually has a lot of cool mechanics that you can either take from or adapt to your own campaign settings. I remember for this one, in the comments, I think one of the comments did mention about a boss fight from Cataclysm of this Black Dragon whelp. I kind of forgot the name. I think it was Atramedes? Atramedes, yeah. A Black Dragon whelp that you fight in Cataclysm. A boss that is blind and so relies on hearing to attack the players. And in order to distract them, you need to sound the gong. So it's really cool. And it can be adapted, really. I'm thinking of putting that in my next campaign somewhat. There are a lot of materials that you can put into your campaigns from World of Warcraft or other sources, which is another story that I want to tell right after this, because this is the last meme. Thank you, Giorgio Villa for the meme. It is every homebrew dungeon master's nightmare and dream that we had to rack our brains over making campaigns, monsters, and monster mechanics for bosses, even mob monsters as well. It's sometimes really fun. But if you're waking up at 2 a.m. to think about this, then I think you should get some sleep first. Alright? So, alright. Next, I want to talk about the two stories that I mentioned before. Now firstly, regarding this one, I did a campaign for a bunch of new characters, new players who have never touched Dungeons & Dragons before, who just started playing, and this was their first campaign, so I was trying to think of a way to ease them into the hobby, you know? So during their first encounter, I decided to play it like a tutorial kind of thing, you know? So I had them go into a cavern where they faced goblins and stuff like that, and at the end of the cavern there was this large opening in the cavern where there was an ogre waiting for them. Now I know what you're thinking. Ogre? Isn't that a little bit too high-end of a monster to make them fight, especially at the start? No, well, this ogre I adapted from The Hobbit. You're gonna see why. So the players started fighting the ogre, and during the combat phase, I would drop hints for them actually about the ogre and about stuff that the ogre is weak to. So for example, this one player, or I think it was the party ranger, dodged out of the way of the ogre's club as the ogre swung it at him, and the ogre's club hit the cavern walls, and the whole cavern opening started shaking. And the ceiling, they noticed, started to crack. And later on in the fight, the same ranger shot an arrow and missed. So this was the conversation. I shot an arrow. Oh, I got a 5. It doesn't hit, right? No, it doesn't. Which part of the ogre were you trying to hit? I aimed at the head. The head of the ogre? Yes. Alright, your arrow whizzed past its hit. However, the arrow lodged itself into the cavern ceiling, and it cracked open the cavern ceiling just a little bit. In a small opening in the cavern ceiling opened up, and sunlight shone through like a beam of light, hitting the cavern floor. Alright, so this part was important because the next part that I'm gonna tell you is where they started getting really excited. So the fighter, a couple of turns later, was facing down the ogre directly, and the ogre swung its club at the fighter again, and fighter managed to dodge. So this was the conversation. Fighter, what was your AC? 18. Alright, the ogre missed you, and as it missed you, its club swung right in front of you, right? And into the beam of sunlight that came from the cavern top, the cavern ceiling. And the ogre's hands started burning and started turning to stone. The ogre yelled out in pain, Ah! And then it quickly jerked his hand backwards. Some of it has already been solidified into stone, but mostly still intact. And that's when the party started to get, oh, this is like Hobbit. This is like the Hobbit movies, where the ogre and Thorin's company and Gandalf. I was like, yeah, this is exactly like that. And they all started thinking, we should do something about this. We can trip it into the beam of light. How? And then they're like, we could adapt from another movie, Star Wars, Episode 5. The AT-ATs on the planet of Hoth. And I was, oh, that's really good actually. And so the ranger shot a tripwire, the fighter ran behind the ogre and tripped the ogre into the light, and the ogre got turned to stone. So, and this is really good because throughout the rest of the campaign, the party actually got really smart, and they started thinking about every time before they go on a mission, or they go fight bosses, or even mobs that they are not familiar with, or hunting monsters. They would ask me, we ask the townsfolk, or we look around, maybe the library or someplace like that, about weaknesses. Are there any weak points or environmental stuff that we can do against these monsters? That kind of thing. Even during the battle, they look around the environment to look for environmental weaknesses that they can exploit, and that's good. That teaches your players to adapt to overcome a situation that normally they wouldn't be able to overcome. Now, that's the first story. I mentioned the second story regarding me doing me torturing my players with a mimic death room. Now, this is a different group of players, okay? So this was a homebrew campaign where this group of players, they were adventurers who were hired by a client to traverse a massive underground cavern maze where they're competing against other adventuring groups, NPC adventuring groups, that were also trying to reach the end. And this particular adventuring group, the party, got stuck fighting a necromancer halfway through the dungeon. And during the encounter, I mentioned to them, another NPC adventuring group ran past them and were making it to the next room afterwards. And they were talking to each other, we gotta finish this necromancer fast, and then let's get on because other teams are beating us. And so they started thinking, and they started fighting harder, and eventually they beat the necromancer. And of course, to race against time, they quickly dashed over to the next room. However, as they were running to the next room, I explained to them, you hear screams coming from the room ahead of you, the room where the other adventurers ran into just moments before you. Now, understand, the whole fight with Necromancer probably took about 5 minutes in game, So the other adventurers already made it ahead, and you hear their screams coming from in the room, and then complete silence. So the party rogue was the first one to try and go in. He attempted to open the door and checked it, for traps or anything like that. I told him there's nothing wrong with the door at all. So, party rogue opened the door, went into the room, and I described the scene to him. The room is a pristine office. In the center of the room, a rug with a table on it and 2 chairs on either side. There are bookshelves, cabinets, wardrobe, and a chest in the corner that all seem to be absolutely perfect. Pristine even. No signs of conflict. The rogue got really suspicious, of course. That can't be right, he said. And he basically told me, I checked the room for any signs of blood. Blood stains here and there. And so he looked behind the wardrobe, he checked underneath the table, the desk, the chest. At this point, the party wizard started getting really, really bad vibes, both in and out of character. He basically told the party, I'm starting to get really, really bad vibes from this room. So he told me, I want to cast True Sight because I prepared it beforehand. And so I asked him, you casting True Sight on yourself? No, I'm casting True Sight on the rogue. And so he and the rogue talked. Are you sure you want to cast it on me? Yes, because you have better vision than I do. So, alright, so the rogue has True Sight cast on him. And I told the rogue, only you can see this, right? And so right now, as you open your eyes and you look across the room, you notice that every single piece of furniture, as soon as I sit this out of table, the whole party knew what I was talking about, and they all glared at me. And so I continued to the rogue. Every single furniture in this room, from the door that you guys entered through to the other door at the other side of the room, to the rug, to the table, the chairs, the cabinets, the bookshelves, the wardrobe, and the chest in the corner, all have mouths with sharp teeth and eyes staring at you, because they all realize now, every single mimic in the room is looking at you because they all realize you can see them. And so the rogue shouted out, "Mimics!" And then the door shut closed behind him, and I said the two legendary lines that every D&D player hates the most. Depends on which party you're talking about. Roll initiative. And then, of course, my party made it through that. But after the encounter, the party fighter looked at me at the table and said, "Bro, if we have to face another mimic death room throughout this campaign, I will personally jump across the table and strangle you myself, bro. I'm not kidding. No more mimics, man." And I said, "Okay, no more mimics, chill." And I kept my word. I didn't throw any more mimics at them. I did, however, throw them into a doppelganger ghost town, but that's another story for a different time. Alright, and we've come to the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for sticking to the end. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Of course, and also, if you have any funny D&D stories or memes that you would like me to share in the next Forever DM Reacts, please leave them down in the comments below, or tweet them to me at my Twitter account, which will also be in the description. So, adios everyone, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!